This is Daf Yomi, the daily Daf, Avodah Zarah, Avodah Zarah, page 37a, top of the page, with the words Hoyel v'Ro'oi L'Biyah. Okay, it's talking about, and again, I need to constantly reiterate my disclaimer since this is going to the public, and who knows who's watching this. I want it to be known that anything that's stated in the Talmud does not reflect my own opinion, or my own ruling, or my own decision, or my own philosophy, or my own anything. I'm simply reading the content of the Talmud. There's many reasons why the Talmud would say what it said. It could have been the time that they were in. Many factors that they say in the Talmud that don't apply today. Halakhically speaking, I'm talking for the mainstream Judaism. So with that predicated, I'll read some of this material that might be a little bit controversial, but again, this is just my reading of the content alone. That's all it is. Don't shoot me, please. Just a messenger. Okay, the bottom of 36b, it said that Reb Chia's statement was related to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. He said that a Gentile child imparts ritual impurity, a boy imparts ritual impurity at the age of 9 years old in a day. That's what he said. Okay? And so now we're on top of 37, and so the Talmud says, Hoy, Bas Shalosh, Shanim Yom Echad, Hoy The Gemara explains the reason for this opinion. Since a 9-year-old boy is fit to engage in intercourse, he also imparts ritual impurity as one who experienced ziva. Ravina said, therefore, with regard to a female Gentile child who is 3 years old in one day, since she is fit to engage in intercourse at that age, she also imparts impurity as one who experienced ziva. Now, it probably has been used by many anti-Semitic people or anti-Jewish people or anti-Talmud, even Jewish people who hate the rabbis, to say that the Talmud encourages pedophilia and stuff, because it says here that a female child is fit for intercourse at age 3. So I'm saying this because I've seen it before. People try to discredit the Talmud. And we don't know how things were back then. We don't know what was going on back then. And we don't know the state of people's minds back then. We don't know what he was actually thinking, So, anyways, with that said, I'll continue. Pshita ma'hu the Gemara asks, isn't that obvious? The Gemara explains it was necessary to say this ruling, lest you say that the halacha, that a Gentile who is suited for intercourse imparts impurity, does not apply to a female. The possible difference between a male and a female child is based on the fact that whereas that child, a 9-year-old male Gentile, knows how to accustom others to sin by employing persuasion. I guess that goes for anybody, not just a Gentile child. It goes for a Jewish. If you're 9 years old, you're 9 years old. No one's has a monopoly on sin here. But anyway, he knows how to accustom others to sin by employing persuasion. This child, a 3-year-old female Gentile child, does not know how to accustom others to sin until she matures. Therefore, Ravina teaches us that the halacha nevertheless applies to both male and female children. Okay? The Gemara relates a relevant incident. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya was traveling while leaning upon the shoulder of Rabbi Simlai, his attendant. Omar lo Simlai lo haytemesh bebet midrash shehitarnu et hashemen. Omar lo biyameinu ta'atira v'tapat. Omar lo im ken karulan bedin sharia. Titnan nehin Rabbi Yossi ben Yoezer ish tzareda al ayal kamtza dechan yal mashke bet mitavchaya dechan ve'al nikrav lebitav v'sa'av v'karule Yosef sharia. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya said to him, Simlai, you were not in the study hall last night when we permitted the oil of Gentiles. Rabbi Simlai said to him, in our days you would permit bread of Gentiles as well. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya said to him, if so, people will call us a permissive court. As we learn in the Mishnah, Eduyot 8:4, Rabbi Yossi ben Yoezer of Tzareda testify with regard to the Eil Kamza, a type of locust, that it is kosher, and with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple, that they are ritually pure, and with regard to one who touches a corpse, that he is impure, as soon explained by the Gemara. And as a result, they called him Yosef the permissive. Amar le hatam sha'atelat Umar shalachada b'isharim achada acharit yakati tarten udehaviyan Amar le ananami shalachriti mahi. Rabbi Simlai said to him, there Yossi ben Yoezer permitted 3 matters, but the master has permitted only one. And even if the master permits one matter, these will still constitute only 2 permissive rulings. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya said to him, I have already permitted another matter. The Gemara asks, what is the other matter he permitted? It's none. Zegiter im lo bati mikan ad 12 chodesh umet בתוך 12 חודש אינו גט ותניא לאבותינו יתרועה לנשא ואמרינן מן רבותינו אמר רבי יהודה שמואל בית דינה דשכור מישחה. The Gemara explains that this is as we learn in the Mishnah, it gets in 76b, that if one says to his wife, this is your bill of divorce if I do not arrive from now until 12 months' time, and he died within 12 months, then it is not a valid bill of divorce because it would not take effect until after his husband's death. And it is taught with regard to that Mishnah that our rabbis nevertheless permitted her to marry. The Gemara continues, and we say, who is the Mishnah referring to when it mentions our rabbis? Rabbi Yehuda said that Shmuel said this is referring to the court that permitted the oil of Gentiles. Savri le Rabbi Yossi. Diamar zman shishtam mochiach alav. Ve'amav Rabbi Yama bered Rabbi Chiyam Rabba. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Ora Velo Lo Kol Shato Be'amri La Kol Siato. Tangentially, the Gemara examines the reason for the ruling of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya's court concerning a bill of divorce. They hold in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, who says, the date written in the document proves when it takes effect. In other words, the bill of divorce takes effect at the time written on it. Therefore, the divorce actually goes into effect before the husband's death because it is retroactively initiated on the day that the bill was issued. The Gemara adds, And Rabbi Abba, son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, says, in an earlier period, Yehuda Hanasi also ruled that the bill of divorce should be valid, but the other sages did not concede to his opinion during his entire lifetime. Some say that all of his colleagues did not concede to his opinion. Amle Rabbi Yezer, in brackets, Elazar. Lahu Saba. Ki sharitu aleanter sharitua. Telo ate yodir malach shnayim asachodesh lo ikayam le'etanae. Rabbi Elazar said to a certain elderly man who was a member of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah's court, when you permitted this woman to remarry, did you permit her immediately after the husband died? As he certainly will not arrive within the 12 months, or perhaps you permitted her only after 12 months, because only then was the condition fulfilled. Ditnan haregitech me'achshav im lo bati mikan ad 12 chodesh umed betach 12 chodesh haveget hakayem la letnai. That elderly man said to Rabbi Elazar, and let the dilemma. Okay, so Rabbi Elazar said to a certain elderly man who was a member of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi's court, when you permitted this woman to remarry, did you permit her immediately after the husband died, as he certainly will not arrive within the 12 months? Perhaps you permitted her only after 12 months, because only then was the condition fulfilled. And then the Gemara went on to say that elderly man said to Rabbi Elazar, and let the dilemma be raised with regard to the Mishnah itself. As we learned in the next line of the Mishnah in Gittin, if one says to his wife, this is your bill of divorce from now, if I do not arrive from now until 12 months have elapsed, and he died within 12 months, this is a valid bill of divorce. The reason is that its condition was fulfilled, as the husband stated explicitly that the bill takes effect immediately. V'tibailach le'alter havigita le'alter havigita lai 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 deha lo aktab o din melach 12 chodesh da'ekim le'tenai. Explains, and let the dilemma be raised with regard to this case. Is the bill of divorce valid immediately upon the husband's death, because he will certainly not arrive? Or perhaps the bill of divorce is valid only after 12 months have elapsed, because only then is his condition fulfilled? Rabbi Elazar answered, yes, indeed it is so. This question can be asked with regard to the case of the mission itself. The Gemara adds, but Rabbi Elazar asked the elder about the decision of Rabbi Yehuda to see his court, because he was present at that assembly, and therefore he could report on what had actually occurred. Abaye says, all concede that one who says that a bill of divorce will take effect once the sun emerges from its sheath is saying to his wife that it will be valid once the sun comes out in the morning. And therefore, if the husband dies during the night before sunrise, it is a posthumous bill of divorce, which is invalid. I'm not sure why he would care, because once he's dead, who cares whether he's divorced or not? What's the point? He's dead. She's free. But anyway. Almana shetesi chaman tika me'ach shugam he made belayla havadai tanai have forget mechaimu kidaravuna maravuna kolom ramalas kolom me'ach shugam. Furthermore, if he said to her on the condition that the sun will come out of its sheath, then he is saying to his wife that the bill of divorce will take effect retroactively from now on the condition that the son emerges. And accordingly, if he dies during the night, this is certainly a fulfilled condition, as it is a bill of divorce which takes effect retroactively while he is alive. In accordance with the statement of Rav Huna, as Rav Huna says, with regard to anyone who states a provision employing the language on the condition is tantamount to his stating in a provision that the document takes effect retroactively from now. Lo nechlechu elav be'im tetzeh. Lo nechlechu elav be'im tetzeh. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, "V'la Rabbi Yossi, David Zbanu Shoshtar Mochiach Alav, Yavrei ki me'ayom im ma'ati, ki me'achshav im mati." Rabbi Lehu Rabbi Yossi, Yavrei ki ze gitech im mati. They disagreed only in the case of one who said to his wife, "This will be your bill of divorce. The son emerges from its sheath, and the husband died during the night." Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds it according to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, who says that the date written in the document proves when it takes effect, and it is therefore considered as though the husband said, "From today if I die," or as though he said, "From now if I die." And the sages do not accept the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, and consequently they maintain that it is considered as though the husband said only, "This is your bill of divorce if I die," in which case the bill of divorce is not valid, as it would take effect only after the husband's death. Gufa, hey, and Rabbi Yossi ben Yoezer, ish tzred alayal kam tzedichan, pial mashke beta mat bechaya dechan, pial dikrav lemita, misae bikarule, Yosef Sharaya, mai ayan kamtza, Rav Papa Amar, shoshiva, Rav Chia barame mishmei de ulamar susbil. The Gemara returns to the matter itself. Yossi ben Yoezer of Treda testified with regard to the ale kamsa that it is kosher, with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple that they are ritually pure, and with regard to one who touches the corpse that he is impure. As a result, they called him Yosef, the permissive. The Gemara asks, what is the ale kamsa? Rav Papa says it is a long-headed locust called shoshiva, and Rav Chia bar Ami says, in the name of Ula, it is a locust called Sazbil. Rav Papa Amar Shoshiva, Dikomiv li berosho aroch, Mai savarosh aroch asu, Umar savarosh aroch mutal. Rav Chia bar Ami mishmei de ulama. The Gemara explains, Rav Papa says, it is a Shoshiva, and accordingly, Yossi ben Yoezer and the rabbis disagree with regard to a long-headed locust. One sage, the rabbis, holds that a long-headed locust is prohibited, and one sage, meaning Yossi ben Yoezer, holds that a long-headed locust is permitted. Rav Chia bar Ami says in the name of Ula that, now turning to 37b, Sus bil Yehoshua kul yamar begi. Asura bichravav chayvines rubo al yedei adchak kamifligi. Mar savaru bekol dehon meinan, umar savaru beminaker be'enan. It is thus built accordingly. With regard to long-headed locusts, everyone agrees that it is prohibited. And here, they disagree with regard to a locust whose wings barely cover the midst of its body. One sage, Yossi ben Yoezer, holds that we require only a minimal majority of a locust's body to be covered by its wings. And one sage, the rabbis, holds that we require a noticeable majority of the body to be covered. Vital. A subseal, and according with regard to a long-headed locust, everyone agrees that it is prohibited. And here they disagree with regard to a locust whose wings barely cover most of its body. One sage, Yossi ben Yoezer, holds that we require only a minimal majority of the locust's body to be covered by its wings, and one sage, meaning the rabbis, holds that we require a noticeable majority of the body to be covered. Rav Amar Dechan Mamash, Ushmul Amar Dechan Minamate Acherim, Ava Mitumasat Manishba. It was stated above And Yossi ben Yoezer testified with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple that they are ritually pure. The Gemara asks, what did Yossi ben Yoezer mean when he said they are pure? Rav says he meant that they are actually ritually pure. And Shmuel says, they are pure in the sense that they do not impart ritual impurity to other substances, but they themselves can, in fact, contract impurity. Rav Amar dechan mamish v'sava tumas mashkin derabanan nechigaz derabanan tumas mashkin yalma aval b'mashke b'mitavechaya logaz rabanan. The Gemara explains the reasons for these opinions. Rav says that these liquids are actually pure, as he maintains that the ritual impurity of liquids applies by rabbinic law. And when the sages decreed impurity upon liquids, they did so only with regard to ordinary liquids, but the sages did not issue their decree with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse in the temple. Ushmuel Amal and Shmuel says liquids are ritually pure in the sense that they do not impart impurity to other substances, but they themselves can contract impurity, as Shmuel maintains that the ritual impurity of liquids themselves is by Torah law, whereas their capacity to impart impurity to other substances is by rabbinic law. And when the sages issued this decree, they did so only with regard to ordinary liquids, but they did not issue their decree with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple. It was stated, and Yossi ben Yoezer testified with regard to one who touches a corpse that he is impure, and as a result they called him Yosef the permissive. The Gemara questions this. Since he issued a stringent ruling, they should have called him Yosef the prohibiting. And furthermore, this halacha is explicitly written in the Torah, as it is written, and whoever in the open field touches one that is slain with a sword, or one that is dead, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be impure 7 days. Numbers 19:16. The Gemara explains, by Torah law, one who touches the corpse is ritually impure, but one who touches another who has touched the corpse is pure. And the sages came and decreed that even one who touches another who has touched a corpse is also impure. And Yossi ben Yoezer came and established the halacha in accordance with the original, more lenient Torah law. Dikrav, bidikrav, nami doeraitahu, dichtiv, v'chol asher yiga bo atamei yitma. The Gemara raises a difficulty: one who touches another who has touched a corpse is also rendered impure by Torah law, as it is written, and whatsoever the impure person touches shall be impure. Numbers 19:22. Amru ha'rabanan kamei derave mishmei Rav Zutra meret Rav Nachman Delman mishmei Rav Nachman do'eraita dikrav b'dikrav v'chiburin tumas shiva shelo v'chiburin tumas erev ve'ato inhu ugzur afilu shelo v'chiburin tumas shiva ve'ataihu ve'okma. The sages stated this difficulty before Rav in the name of Mar Zutra, the son of Rav Nachman, who said in response in the name of Rav Nachman, by Torah law, one who touches another who touches a corpse while the second individual is in concurrent contact with the corpse is impure with the 7-day impurity. If this occurs while the second individual is not in concurrent contact with the corpse, he contracts impurity until the evening. And the sages came and decreed that even where there is no concurrent contact, one still contracts 7-day impurity when you touch someone who touches a corpse. And subsequently, Yossi ben Yoezer came and established the halacha in accordance with the original Torah law. Haketzat. The Gemara asks. The Gemara asks. The Gemara asks. Do. This is a really long daf. Wow. Okay, let's continue, man. Gotta do it. The Gemara asks. Wow. Malzutra. Yeah. What is the source of this halacha prescribed by Torah law as is written? He that touches the dead, even a man's dead body, shall be impure 7 days. Numbers 19:11. As it is written, and whatsoever the impure person touches shall be impure. Numbers 19:22. These two verses indicate that one contracts ritual impurity for 7 days, and yet it is also written, and the soul that touches him shall be impure until evening. Numbers 19:22. How can these texts be reconciled? The Gemara answers here in the first two verses. The Torah is discussing concurrent contact, which results in impurity 7 days. There, in the last verse, it is discussing a case where there is no concurrent contact, and therefore the individual in question is impure only until the evening. Rava said to the sages who suggested that explanation, citing Rav Nachman, didn't I tell you not to hang empty pitchers upon Rav Nachman? Meaning not to attribute incorrect statements to him. Rather, this is what Rav Nachman said. Yossi ben Yehoshua permitted for them a case of uncertain impurity contracted in public domain. In other words, Yossi ben Yehoshua ruled leniently that one who is unsure whether or not he came into contact with a corpse in the public domain is ritually pure. The Gemara raises a difficulty, but didn't we learn this halacha from a case of a woman suspected by her husband of having been unfaithful? Just as a sota can be made to drink the bitter waters only when she is suspected of engaging in adultery in a private domain, so too uncertain ritual impurity is considered impure only when one suspects that he came into contact with a private domain. This shows that even by Torah law, one who is unsure whether or not he touched a corpse in the public domain remains pure. Rabbi Yochanan said in explanation, this is the ruling, this is the halacha, but the public ruling is not issued to that effect. Consequently, masses treated this matter with stringency. And Yossi ben Yehoshua came and instructed the masses to follow the original instruction of Torah. Therefore, his ruling was in fact a leniency. Tanya Namihachi. We learned that Raisa supported this. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Korat Nas Lehem, V'amad Kadosh Uzachad Man Kadosh Uzayari, Kiyatu Lekavit Rabbi Hanai, Amalahu, Amaya Beshikata Be Debenaharazilut Yevelu. This is also taught in Brayot. Rabbi Yehuda says that Yossi ben Yehoshua drove stakes into the ground for the people and said, until here is the public domain, and until there is the private domain, so that they would know the halacha if they suspected that they had touched a corpse. The Gemara relates that when people came before Rabbi Yanai because they suspected that they might have come into contact with a source of impurity in the public domain, he said to them, why involve yourselves in matters of uncertainty? There is deep water in the river. Go immerse yourselves in it and resolve the problem in this manner. V'hashlakot binani mili. Amar b'chia barab, amar yochanan, amar kra, ochel v'kesev tibreini. Yechalti mayim v'kesev titnin li v'shititi. Gamayim ha'mayim shelo nishtanu, apocher shelo nishtana. The Mishnah teaches in boiled vegetables prepared by Gentiles are prohibited. The Gemara asks, from where is this matter derived? Rabbi Chia Barabba says, Barabbas, but Bar Abba. Rabbi Chia Bar Abba says, and Yochanan says, the verse states that when Moses asked Sichon, king of the Amorites, for passage to his land, he said, "You shall sell me food for money that I may eat, and give me water for money that I may drink." Deuteronomy 2:28. By juxtaposing food and water, the verse teaches that food is like water. Just as Moses wished to purchase water that was unchanged, so too he wished to purchase food that was unchanged, meaning uncooked. Evidently, this is because foods cooked by Gentiles are prohibited. So maybe fruit, nuts, things like that. Beans, rice. Achanami dasurin. Chitim achanami umetanya chitim v'ason. Kilayos mutarin. Elakamayim. Ma mayim shlo nishtan b'rason. Naf oichel shlo nishtan b'rason. The Gemara raises a difficulty. If that is so, then in a case where a Gentile had wheat and made it into roasted grains, by roasting it in the oven, the wheat should also be prohibited, as it was cooked. And if you would say, indeed that is so, this cannot be the halacha, as isn't it Tana Braita? If a Gentile had wheat and made it into roasted grains, it is permitted. It is permitted. The Gemara suggests a different explanation. Rather, food is like water in the following manner. Just as Moses wished to purchase water that was not altered from its original state, so too he wished to purchase food that was not altered from its original state. Roasting wheat kernels does not alter their original state. It alters it a little bit, but maybe not significantly. שלהם מותרים, אלא כמים, מה מים שלא נשתנה מרסון על ידי האור, אף אוכל שלא נשתנה בריאתו על ידי האור. The Gemara raises another difficulty. If that is so, if a Gentile had wheat and ground it into flour, the flour should also be prohibited, as the wheat has been altered from its original state. And if you would say, indeed, that is so, this cannot be the case. As isn't it Tana Braita, if a Gentile had wheat and made it into roasted grains, it is permitted. Similarly, flours and fine flours belonging to Gentiles are permitted. Rather, food is like water in the following manner. Just as Moses wished to purchase water that was not altered from its original state by fire, so too he wished to purchase food that was not altered from its original state by fire. Although wheat ground into flour is altered from its original state, this change is not accomplished by means of fire. The Gemara raises a difficulty. Is fire written in the verse? There is no mention of fire in the verse at all. How can we assume that this is the similarity between water and food?